Work. It's where most of us spend the majority of our waking hours. It's where our talents are tested, our patience stretched, and our endurance pushed to the limit. And in the modern world, it's also where stress has set up permanent camp. Deadlines loom like thunderclouds, emails multiply like weeds, and meetings fill the calendar until there's hardly any room left to breathe. For many, work stress has become so normal that they can't even imagine a life without it. It's as if we've accepted that stress is just the tax we pay for having a career. But what if that's not true? What if the problem is not the stress itself, but our relationship with it? What if we could learn to thrive under pressure instead of being crushed by it? This is where the Stoic mindset becomes more than just ancient philosophy, it becomes a survival tool. 2,000 years ago, long before corporate hierarchies, Zoom calls, or quarterly performance reviews, the Stoics were already wrestling with challenges that could have easily broken them. They faced political upheavals, personal tragedies, and brutal realities without the safety nets we take for granted today. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor, ran an empire while dealing with wars, plagues, and betrayals. Seneca, a statesman, navigated the treacherous politics of the Roman court, always under threat of exile or execution. Epictetus, born into slavery, endured hardship and cruelty while building a life centered around philosophy and resilience. They all understood something profound: you cannot control the chaos around you, but you can control the way you respond to it. Modern work stress might not be the same as leading an army into battle, but the mental toll can feel just as intense. Deadlines can feel like enemies approaching. Difficult bosses can feel like emperors holding your fate in their hands. Office politics can resemble the unpredictable games of ancient courts. And just like the Stoics, we are faced with the same choice every day: to let these pressures dictate our emotional state, or to master our inner world so that we can operate with clarity and strength no matter what comes our way. The Stoics called this mastery the control of impressions, the ability to step back from your immediate emotional reaction and see events for what they truly are. A coworker sends a passive-aggressive email. Without Stoic practice, you might feel your blood pressure spike, your mind flood with irritation, and your hands twitch to fire back a cutting reply. But with Stoic control, you pause. You remind yourself that this email is just text on a screen. The meaning you attach to it, insult, threat, provocation, that comes from you. And if it comes from you, it can be changed by you. Work stress often doesn't come from the actual work, but from the mental stories we attach to it. The Stoics knew this well. Seneca famously said, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Think about how many times you've stressed for hours or days about a presentation, only for it to go fine, or at least not nearly as badly as you feared. The anticipation was worse than the event. Stoicism teaches us to cut this suffering short by focusing on what's within our control. You can prepare for the presentation, you can speak clearly, you can answer questions honestly, that's your domain. But the reactions of others? Their approval or disapproval? That belongs to them, not to you. And if it's not yours to control, why waste your energy on it? Of course, knowing this and living it are two different things. The Stoics weren't naive. They didn't pretend that we could just decide to be calm and it would magically happen. They believed in training the mind daily, the way an athlete trains the body. Epictetus told his students to expect difficulties, to treat them as the gym where their mental muscles would grow. In the workplace, this means reframing challenges as opportunities to practice resilience. A chaotic project? A chance to practice patience and problem solving. A demanding boss? A chance to practice composure under pressure. A failed proposal? A chance to practice detachment from outcomes. The more you train, the less each challenge shakes you, and the more you realize that stress is not a threat, it's your teacher. One of the most powerful Stoic tools for handling work stress is the concept of the dichotomy of control. This simple framework divides the world into two categories: things you can control and things you cannot. Every situation you face at work falls into one of these categories. You can control your effort, your attitude, your focus, your preparation. You cannot control the market, the economy, the decisions of upper management, or the opinions of others. Yet most people spend the bulk of their energy on the second category, arguing against reality, wishing things were different, blaming circumstances. The Stoics saw this as a tragic waste of life. Instead, they advised us to place all our attention on the first category and to meet everything outside it with acceptance. Not resignation, but acceptance. Acceptance frees you from the fight you can never win, and channels your strength into the fight you can. This is not about becoming emotionless or robotic. The Stoics felt deeply, but they refused to be ruled by their feelings. Imagine you get passed over for a promotion. Without Stoic practice, you might stew in resentment, replaying every injustice, letting bitterness poison your days. With Stoic practice, you acknowledge the disappointment, feel it fully, but then ask, what is mine to control here? Maybe it's improving your skills, seeking feedback, or exploring other opportunities. By moving quickly from reaction to action, you preserve your energy and keep your mind clear. Stress thrives on stagnation, it weakens when you take purposeful steps forward. Another Stoic habit worth adopting is the practice of perspective taking. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of the vastness of time and space, of how small his personal troubles were in the grand scheme of things. This is not to diminish your struggles, but to prevent them from consuming you entirely. When a project feels like the end of the world, it helps to zoom out and see that it is one event in a career, one ripple in a much larger ocean. Perspective turns mountains back into molehills, making them easier to climb. In practical terms, you can apply Stoic thinking at work through daily rituals. Start the day with a few moments of stillness, reminding yourself of your values and your focus. Before important meetings, take a deep breath and ask, what is within my control in this room? At the end of the day, reflect on what went well, what you handled poorly, and how you can improve tomorrow. These small practices add up, rewiring your mind to handle stress not with panic, but with poise. The Stoics also understood the importance of boundaries, not just physical, but mental. In a modern work culture that often glorifies overwork, it's easy to feel guilty for resting. But even Marcus Aurelius, who bore the weight of an empire, made time to retreat into his thoughts, to recharge in solitude. Rest is not weakness, it's maintenance. Without it, your mental resilience will crumble. A Stoic at work knows when to engage fully and when to step back, understanding that sustainable performance requires balance. And perhaps the most radical Stoic idea for today's workplace is the idea of self-worth independent of external validation. Much of our stress at work comes from tying our identity to our job title, salary, or recognition. When these are threatened, our sense of self wobbles. The Stoics rooted their self-worth in virtue, in living with integrity, courage, wisdom, and justice. These are qualities no boss, no company, no economic downturn can take from you. When your self-worth is anchored in who you are, not what you achieve, work stress loses its power to shake your foundation. Ultimately, the Stoic mindset transforms the way you see work. It's no longer a battlefield where stress is the enemy, but a training ground where stress is the sparring partner that makes you stronger. Thriving under pressure doesn't mean you never feel it, it means you use it as fuel, as feedback, as an opportunity to sharpen your mind. The pressures of the modern workplace are unlikely to disappear. But with Stoicism, you can learn to stand steady in the middle of them, calm as a rock in a rushing river, doing your work with focus, dignity, and resilience. The truth is, you will face hard days, unreasonable demands, and unexpected crises. That's the nature of life, and the Stoics never promised otherwise. What they promised was that with the right mindset, these moments could become not sources of suffering, but sources of strength. You cannot always choose your workload, your boss, or your company's direction. But you can always choose your response. And in that choice lies your freedom. If you embrace the Stoic approach, work stress no longer defines you. It becomes part of your training, part of your growth, part of the forge that shapes you into someone unshakable. You become the person who can be trusted in a crisis, who keeps their head when others lose theirs, who sees the big picture when others are blinded by panic. And when you can do that, not just once, but consistently, you discover that the workplace, with all its chaos, is not a prison, but a proving ground. And you are ready for whatever comes next.